We are building an $850 billion future. But the very tools powering it might be quietly erasing our ability to think.
Yeah, that's the ultimate paradox of leverage, really.
Welcome to today's deep dive. 2-sec silence. You know, we often think of technology as something outside of us, like a tool in our hand. But today, we're looking at what happens when the tool starts rewiring the hand that holds it.
Exactly.
So our mission today is to explore 3 structural shifts happening right now.
And they are all deeply connected.
Right. First, we're unraveling a tangled corporate web. OpenAI is maneuvering toward an immense IPO, and the financials are raising fundamental questions about incentives.
Yeah.
Second, we're tracking the physical and digital reality of AI's current speed. Sprinting robots. A quiet, escalating war over memory chips.
The hardware layer.
Right. And finally, we'll dissect a fascinating new joint study from MIT. It measures the hidden cognitive tax of using our favorite productivity tools.
Let's start at the macro level, the flow of capital.
Right. We have to start with a staggering number, $852 billion. Beat. That is the reported internal valuation for OpenAI right now.
Wow.
Yeah. They are preparing for an initial public offering in the 4th quarter of 2026.
It's a valuation that dwarfs most legacy automakers and banks combined.
Yeah.
But getting to that IPO requires navigating what insiders actually call the Sam problem.
The Sam problem.
Right. The tension between corporate treasury and personal ambition is reaching an expensive inflection point.
He occupies a bizarre space in the tech ecosystem. He directs this near-trillion-dollar entity, yet he famously holds 0 official equity in the company itself.
Which is highly unusual for a founder. I mean, he frequently leans on this fact. He frames himself as a disinterested director, someone whose motivations are purely tethered to the overarching mission of building artificial general intelligence.
But recent financial disclosures paint a much more complicated reality. The line between his personal venture portfolio and OpenAI's corporate needs is heavily blurred. We are looking at a situation where the company's survival depends on resources that he personally backs.
The underlying mechanism here is compute. OpenAI is locked in a brutal scaling war. To build smarter models, they need exponentially more computing power.
Right.
So they're planning an infrastructure project called Stargate. It's a proposed data center that will require gigawatts of continuous, reliable power.
You can't just plug something like that into the existing municipal grid. It would brown out entire cities.
Exactly.
So they need an independent, colossal energy source.
And that leads us to a company called Helion. Helion is a nuclear fusion startup. They are trying to build the holy grail of clean, limitless energy.
Here's the twist.
Yeah.
He is the largest individual shareholder in Helion.
He is. And according to recent reports, he heavily pushed OpenAI to make a $500 million direct investment into Helion.
Wow.
Yeah. He wanted the AI company to fund the fusion company directly.
That's where the internal friction ignited. OpenAI employees reportedly blocked that direct capital injection.
Right. They saw the optics.
Yeah, it looked remarkably like a massive transfer of corporate wealth directly into the CEO's personal asset column.
The internal governance mechanisms actually worked in this instance. They flagged the conflict of interest. But the energy problem didn't vanish. OpenAI still desperately needs that future power, and Helion still needs the capital to build the reactors.
It's like the mayor of a city using public funds to build a dam. Beat. And it just happens to perfectly irrigate his own private farm downriver.
That is a great way to look at it. But he might argue something completely different.
Like what?
Well, he might say that without that dam, the entire city dies of thirst anyway. The tension isn't just about whether he profits.
Right.
It's whether we care more about enriching his farm or ensuring the city's survival.
So they had to find a structural compromise, a way to fund the farm without writing a direct check. They landed on a power purchase agreement.
Yes. OpenAI officially agreed to buy 12.5% of Helion's future energy output.
Let's make sure we're totally clear on the mechanics here. What exactly is a power purchase agreement?
A long-term contract to buy electricity before the power plant exists.
So by signing that contract, OpenAI guarantees a buyer for the product. That solves the energy bottleneck for the Stargate data center.
Right, and it dramatically lowers the risk for Helion.
Exactly. When a near-trillion-dollar giant promises to buy your experimental energy, your valuation skyrockets.
It does.
That commercial validation is potentially worth billions to his personal net worth. Even without a direct $500 million investment, The corporate leverage heavily serves the personal portfolio.
It's a masterclass in indirect value capture. I mean, he doesn't need equity in OpenAI if OpenAI's operational needs guarantee the success of his outside investments.
So, a quick question on that. Does this energy deal fundamentally blur the line between a software company and a personal hard tech slush fund?
It practically erases the line. When a company's infrastructure requirements are so vast that they dictate national energy policy, well, the CEO's personal investments in that infrastructure become inextricably linked to the company's core mission.
So, it solves their energy crisis, but heavily enriches his personal portfolio.
Yes, the corporate treasury isn't funding him directly, but the
Bah.
corporate demand is.
You know, you can't pour gigawatts of fusion energy into a data center without an endpoint. That power is flowing directly into the physical and digital architecture of tomorrow. Let's look at what that power is actually buying us today.
The translation of energy into capability is happening at an alarming rate.
We're seeing it in the physical world first.
Beat. Whoa. Imagine a humanoid robot running a half marathon faster than any human.
It's a surreal visual.
It really is.
An all-robot race in China just recorded that exact milestone. We're talking about bipedal machines maintaining a sub-5-minute mile pace over distance.
Just 12 months ago, these same prototypes were literally tripping over their own feet. Yeah, they couldn't navigate a curb, let alone a race course.
Yeah.
We are witnessing the collapse of Moravec's paradox.
Wheels-X paradox.
Yeah. For decades, it was incredibly easy to make a computer play Grandmaster chess, but it was nearly impossible to make a robot walk up a flight of stairs.
Reasoning was cheap, but physical mobility was terribly expensive.
Exactly. Now, the models have internalized physical physics. They aren't just calculating, they are moving.
But as fast as the hardware is running, the software layer is compounding even faster. Look at the coding ecosystem.
Coding is the ultimate bottleneck for technological expansion.
Mm-hmm.
If you can automate the creation of software, you automate the creation of everything else.
Right. Like a company called Cursor just raised $2 billion. Their valuation is now sitting at an astonishing $50 billion.
Cursor is an AI-native code editor. It doesn't just auto-complete your typing. It anticipates entire architectural structures.
Wow.
Yeah. Investors are pouring billions into it because they realize human keystrokes are the slowest part of software development.
And OpenAI is pivoting aggressively to capture this exact space. They just announced a major internal reorganization. Kevin Weil is leaving the company.
He was a massive product leader.
Yeah.
He essentially shaped the modern Instagram experience.
His departure signals a distinct philosophical shift. OpenAI is moving away from consumer-facing, glossy products.
Right.
They are doubling down on hardcore developer platforms.
Which explains their other major move. They are folding an internal project called Prism directly into Codex.
For those tracking the architecture, Codex is an AI system that translates plain English instructions into functional software code.
By merging Prism into Codex, they aren't just shuffling engineering teams.
What are they doing?
They are betting that coding isn't merely a feature of artificial intelligence. It is the foundational language that will allow AI agents to eventually build and deploy other AI agents.
But software is essentially just organized thought. It still requires a physical brain to process it, and that brings us to the silicon layer.
Right, the hardware.
NVIDIA has held an absolute monopoly on the chips required to train these models.
The geopolitical stakes around silicon cannot be overstated. NVIDIA's CEO recently delivered a very stark public warning.
Oh, yeah.
He stated clearly that it would be a horrible outcome for America's tech ecosystem if China secures dominance in the next generation of chip manufacturing.
The war isn't just international, though. The domestic battle is heating up significantly. Google is reportedly partnering with Marvell to manufacture 2 entirely new classes of AI chips.
They are directly targeting NVIDIA's moat, and they're doing it by addressing a very specific engineering bottleneck.
What's that?
Well, one of these new chips includes a dedicated memory processing unit attached directly to their TPUs.
Let's clarify the terminology for everyone listening. What exactly is a TPU?
Custom computer chips designed specifically to accelerate artificial intelligence calculations.
Got it. So why is a memory processing unit so critical here?
Because the math isn't the problem anymore. Moving the data is the problem. Right now, it takes more electrical energy to move the data from the memory bank into the processor than it does to actually perform the calculation. It's a massive traffic jam.
So Google is building the memory directly into the processor to eliminate the commute.
Exactly. It fundamentally changes the energy efficiency of training a model.
The hardware is accelerating, the software is absorbing billions in capital, robots are physically sprinting past us, beat. But then we look at the human workforce. The actual economic reality feels incredibly disconnected from this momentum.
OpenAI's chief economist recently mapped out the trajectory for over 900 distinct job categories. The data is sobering.
They calculate that 18% of all jobs face a severe, near-term risk of total AI automation.
And another 24% of jobs will likely shrink in scope. They won't disappear, but the human footprint required to do them will contract significantly.
And only 12% of mapped jobs are projected to actually grow.
Right.
We are looking at a structural hollowing out of the traditional labor market.
Yet, we are faced with a profound contradiction here. With all this immense compounding power, thousands of enterprise CEOs are reporting a totally different reality on the ground.
They are buying the enterprise licenses, they are deploying the tools, but they report that AI hasn't meaningfully improved their actual corporate productivity.
It feels exactly like the technology paradox we saw in the late 1980s.
Back then, corporations put a personal computer on every single desk in America. The processing power skyrocketed.
But national economic productivity didn't budge for almost a decade.
It's like giving a 19th century accounting firm a modern Excel spreadsheet, but they still insist on printing out every single digital cell and mailing it to the boss for a physical signature.
That is so true. The bottleneck isn't the software anymore, it's the corporate muscle memory.
So let me ask you this. If the tech is evolving this fast, why are CEOs stuck in a 1980s-style productivity paradox?
Because technology scales exponentially, but human habits adapt linearly. Buying the software license is incredibly easy, but rewiring deeply embedded human behavior and dismantling legacy workflows takes years of painful cultural friction.
Right, we have the powerful tools, but we haven't reinvented the daily workflows yet.
Exactly. We're trying to use quantum tools to speed up industrial-era processes. It doesn't work.
That paradox perfectly tees up our final exploration today. We have these incredibly powerful instant answer machines. We know they are disrupting corporate structures, but we rarely ask what they are actually doing to our internal architecture, our brains.
This is arguably the most critical question we face right now. A massive new joint study from MIT, Oxford, and Carnegie Mellon just released some deeply unsettling data.
The researchers gathered 1,222 participants. They assigned them a series of complex mathematical and reading comprehension tasks.
We all intimately know the magic of typing a complex problem into a prompt box and getting a brilliant answer in 3 seconds. It feels like cognitive superstrength.
It really does.
But this paper proves that our favorite productivity hack carries the hidden biological tax.
The setup was brilliant. They gave the users a highly advanced GPT-5-based cognitive assistant, and initially the results were incredible.
Yeah.
The users performed much faster. They showed significantly higher accuracy on the early problems.
They looked like absolute geniuses. For the first 10 minutes, it seemed like the ultimate proof of human-machine symbiosis.
But the researchers were measuring something else. They identified a phenomenon they call answer outsourcing.
Answer outsourcing.
Right. It acts as a cognitive crutch. After just 10 minutes of heavy AI assistance, the researchers suddenly removed the GPT-5 tool.
And the participants' performance plummeted instantly. It wasn't a slow decline. It was a catastrophic drop in capability.
Those exact same users who were flying through the test moments before suddenly solved fewer problems. They stalled out constantly.
And they actually quit trying sooner than the control group. Yeah. The people who were working entirely alone, with no AI help from the very start, exhibited far more resilience.
It demonstrates something profound about the mechanics of learning. AI removes the friction from our workflow, but it quietly erases our mental persistence.
Persistence isn't just an attitude, it's a biological adaptation.
Right.
When you struggle with a problem, your neurons build myelin. That insulation allows signals to travel faster next time. Friction is the actual fuel for building intelligence.
I have to be honest, I still wrestle with prompt drift myself.
It's incredibly common.
For those who haven't experienced it, prompt drift is gradually losing your original train of thought while constantly tweaking AI inputs.
Yeah.
I find myself reaching for the AI before I've even let the actual problem settle in my own mind. I outsource the framing of the question, not just the answer.
We all do it. The dopamine loop is deeply tempting. But by removing the agonizing friction of a hard problem, the AI stops the crucial mental training. You are outsourcing your own cognitive load-bearing capacity.
That training is exactly what builds the habit of pushing through confusion. We need that confusion.
The MIT study suggests we are undergoing a major shift in human capability. We are rapidly building a world of orchestrators.
Orchestrators are people who know how to manage complex AI agents. They supervise systems like codecs, they direct the traffic.
But in the rush to become orchestrators, we are losing the fundamental ability to execute.
Right.
We are literally forgetting how to do the actual granular work ourselves.
So is shifting from an executor to an orchestrator really a bad thing for the future of work?
It becomes catastrophic the moment the system produces an error. Orchestration requires a deep fundamental understanding of the underlying mechanics. If you lack execution skills, you cannot evaluate the quality or safety of what the AI just produced. You become entirely dependent on a black box you don't understand.
Yeah, if you can't execute, you won't know if the AI's orchestration actually works.
Exactly. You become a passenger holding a plastic steering wheel.
But the researchers didn't just diagnose the problem. They actually found a very clear behavioral solution hidden in the data.
Right. The cognitive damage was significantly mitigated for a specific subgroup of users.
These were the participants who intentionally used the AI as a hint system rather than a direct answer machine.
Yes. They employed what the researchers call the hint rule. If you want to maintain your neuroplasticity and your mental edge, you have to refuse the direct answer. Mid-roll sponsor read goes here.
So if we pull all these threads together, a very clear, continuous pattern emerges today. We started by looking at the absolute macro scale of our economy.
The $852 billion balancing act, the blurring of corporate treasury and personal ambition to secure gigawatts of nuclear fusion.
Right. And we traced that immense energy demand down into the physical reality. The breakneck speed of humanoid robots breaking marathon records. The geopolitical and corporate wars over memory processing units. And then we drilled all the way down to the microscopic scale, our own individual cognition. The way a 3-second answer quietly erodes our biological capacity for mental persistence.
What stands out to you as the connective tissue here?
It's the concept of invisible taxation. Incredible technological leverage always comes with a hidden cost. We're just usually looking in the wrong place to see the bill.
Well said. Whether it's a megacorporation blurring ethical boundaries to secure energy or an individual trading their own mental resilience for a faster email draft, the leverage is intensely real. But the tax is always paid eventually.
We just have to decide if we are consciously willing to pay it.
Awareness is the only defense.
So what does this all mean for you? Today, we want to challenge you to actively practice the hint rule in your own life.
The next time you face a difficult, frustrating problem at work, don't ask the AI to generate the final output. Ask it for a structural hint.
Right.
Force yourself to sit with the agonizing friction for at least 5 minutes before you type a single prompt.
Build that persistence muscle back up. Maintain your execution skills. It might be the only way to truly keep your edge in a world of orchestrators. Thank you for taking the time to slowly, carefully learn with us today.
It's been a great exploration.
But before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We talked heavily today about losing our ability to execute, about the danger of just becoming orchestrators.
Yeah.
But if AI development continues at this exponential curve, it will eventually automate both the execution and the orchestration, if machines eventually map the problems and solve them.
Right.
What happens to the innate human drive to overcome friction? 2 sec silence. Does the feeling of frustration eventually become a luxury good? Think about it. Out-tiro music.